Before we get to the story, I'd like to say thanks so much for visiting my new channel. I'm going to be uploading cosmic horror related stories every single day. So if that sounds good, please drop a like and don't forget to subscribe. It means a lot, especially when just getting started. I hope you enjoy the story. I first noticed something was wrong on a Tuesday morning when I stopped for coffee. The sign above the shop read Sunrise Cup in faded yellow letters. I stared at it for a solid minute, my hand frozen on the door handle. That wasn't right. The place was called Morning Brew. I'd been coming here for 3 years, ever since I started working at the Franklin Public Library down the street. Morning Brew, I was sure of it. Inside, I ordered my usual black coffee, no sugar, and tried to shake off the weird feeling in my gut. The barista was the same guy who always worked Tuesdays. The menu was the same. Everything was the same, except that sign. "Hey," I said as he handed me my cup. "When did you guys change the name?" He looked at me like I'd asked him when the sky turned blue. "We didn't. It's always been Sunrise Cup." "You sure?" I could have sworn. "Since 2015, man. Check the logo on your cup." I looked down. Sunrise Cup, printed right there in that same faded yellow. I must have seen this logo 1,000 times. How had I never noticed? "Right," I said. "My bad." At work, I mentioned it to Nora, my co-worker. She was shelving books in the history section, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. "Do you remember what that coffee shop down the street is called?" I asked. She didn't even look up. Sunrise Cup. Why? No reason. I tried to let it go. People misremember things all the time. Maybe I'd confused it with another coffee shop in another town. Maybe I was just tired. But the feeling stuck with me all day, like a splinter I couldn't quite reach. That evening, I took my usual route home, cutting through Maple Street to avoid traffic. Except when I turned the corner, nothing looked right. The houses were different, not dramatically different, still the same style, same size, but wrong in ways I couldn't quite explain. A blue house that should have been white, a driveway on the left instead of the right, a tree that was too big or too small. I pulled over and sat in my car, staring at the street. I'd walked down this road hundreds of times, driven it even more. I knew these houses, except I didn't. Not anymore. My phone rang. Brendan's name lit up the screen. "Hey man," he said when I answered. "I was just thinking about that camping trip we took senior year. Remember when we got lost trying to find the lake?" I frowned. "What camping trip?" "Come on, don't tell me you forgot. You, me, and Kevin. We borrowed his dad's tent and everything. You almost stepped on a snake." "Brendan, we never went camping senior year. We went to the lake, but that was junior year, and it was just the two of us. We took your car." There was a long pause. "Michael, what are you talking about?" "Kevin was definitely there. We've talked about that trip like a dozen times." "Who's Kevin?" "Kevin Morris. He sat behind us in calculus. Jesus, are you feeling okay?" I didn't know anyone named Kevin Morris. I'd never known anyone named Kevin Morris. But Brendan sounded so sure, so certain, that I started to doubt myself. "Yeah," I said finally. "I'm fine, just tired. Long day." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Sunrise Cup and Maple Street and a camping trip I didn't remember. I got up and dug through my closet till I found my old yearbook from senior year. I flipped through the pages, looking for Kevin Morris. He wasn't there. At least, I didn't think he was there. But the more I stared at the faces, the less sure I became. I turned to the candid photos in the back. There was one of our graduation ceremony, a wide shot of the crowd. In the background, behind the rows of folding chairs, stood a large brick building. It had white columns and big windows. I'd never seen it before in my life. I called my mum. It was late, but she answered on the third ring. "Michael, what's wrong?" "The old gymnasium at the high school," I said. "The one with the white columns. When was that built?" "Honey, that's been there forever. They built it in the 80s, I think. Why? Did they ever tear it down?" "Tear it down? Of course not. They renovated it a few years ago, but it's still standing." "Michael, what's this about?" "Nothing," I said. "Never mind. Go back to sleep." But there had never been a gymnasium with white columns. I was absolutely certain of that. The gym at my high school was attached to the main building. It was small and cramped, with terrible ventilation. I'd spent 4 years complaining about it, except now, apparently, I hadn't. Over the next week, I started keeping track of the changes. Not on paper. Something told me that wouldn't work. But in my head, a restaurant I'd eaten at last month didn't exist anymore. The building was a dry cleaner that had been there for 15 years. A street sign pointed toward a neighborhood I'd never heard of. The library's hours changed, except they hadn't changed. They'd always been those hours, Nora insisted. Small things, tiny things, the kind of things you could easily dismiss as bad memory or confusion. But they kept happening. I started checking things online, looking up local history. The founding date of Franklin was different than I remembered. A scandal involving the mayor, something about misappropriated funds, had apparently happened 3 years ago instead of 5. When I mentioned it to Nora, she looked at me like I was losing my mind. "It was 3 years ago, Michael. I remember because it was right after my sister's wedding." "Your sister got married 4 years ago," I said. "No, she got married 5 years ago. The scandal was 3 years ago." I stopped arguing. What was the point? The worst part came when I looked at my college diploma. I had kept it in a drawer, never bothered to frame it. I pulled it out one night and stared at the words, "Bachelor of Arts in History." My hands started shaking. I'd majored in English. I remembered my classes, my professors, the late nights working on my thesis about Edgar Allan Poe. I remembered everything. But the diploma said history. My transcripts said history. Every record said history. I wanted to scream. At the library the next day, an elderly man approached me at the circulation desk. I'd seen him around before. He came in every week to read the newspapers. His name was Leonard, though I'd never actually spoken to him. "Excuse me," he said quietly, glancing around, like he was afraid someone might overhear. "Can we talk somewhere private?" I led him to one of the study rooms in the back. He closed the door carefully behind us. "You've noticed, haven't you?" he said. "The changes." I felt something loosen in my chest. "You see them too?" "For months now. Small things at first. The name of a street, the color of a building. But it's getting worse." His hands trembled as he gripped the edge of the table. "My wife died 5 years ago. Cancer. I was with her when she passed. I buried her. I visited her grave every Sunday. I'm sorry, I said. Last week she called me. His voice cracked. She wanted to know if I was coming over for dinner. She lives across town, always has. We never divorced. She never got sick. He looked up at me, his eyes wet. But I remember her funeral, Michael. I remember everything. Both versions feel real. We talked for over an hour. Leonard had been noticing changes for 6 months. His house had disappeared 2 weeks ago, replaced by a park. He now lived in an apartment he had no memory of moving into, but everyone insisted he'd been there for years. His son had called him by a different name. Streets had moved. Buildings had changed. What's happening to us? I asked. I don't know, but it's accelerating. The changes are happening faster now, days apart, then hours. He was right. Over the next few days, Franklin transformed around me. A bridge that connected the north and south parts of town vanished. There was just river and forest where it should have been. People took a different route, one they'd always taken. My apartment building had different neighbors. A couple I'd never seen before waved at me in the hallway and asked how my weekend was. I waved back and pretended I knew them. The worst came when I called my sister, Amber. Hey stranger, she said. Luke was just asking about you. You should come visit soon. My blood went cold. Who's Luke? Very funny, Michael. Your brother? The one you've known for 28 years? Amber, I don't have a brother. It's just you and me. The line went quiet. Michael, are you okay? Should I come over there? Send me a picture, I said, of Luke. This isn't funny anymore. You're scaring me. Please. A minute later, my phone buzzed. I opened the photo and felt the world tilt sideways. It was a family picture from Christmas. Mom, Dad, Amber, me, and a fourth person. A boy, maybe 16, with my same dark hair and my same crooked smile. His arm was around my shoulders. I was smiling at the camera like this was the most normal thing in the world. I had never seen him before in my life. Michael? Amber's voice was tinny through the speaker. Talk to me. What's going on? I hung up. Franklin itself started to change. Streets led to different places than they should. The library moved to a different building overnight. Nora acted like it had always been there, in that squat brick building on the edge of town, instead of the beautiful old Carnegie building downtown. When I went looking for the Carnegie building, I found a parking lot. I tracked down Leonard again. He looked different, younger somehow, less grey in his hair, less weight on his shoulders. It's optimizing, he said. We were sitting on a bench in the park that used to be his house. That's what I think is happening. Every change makes things better, slightly better. Crime rates are dropping. Poverty is disappearing. People are happier, but none of it's real. It's real to them, and soon it'll be real to us too. I can already feel it happening. My memories of my wife's death are fading. Sometimes I can't remember what the funeral looked like. Sometimes I can't remember if it even happened. We have to fight it, I said. Leonard smiled sadly. How do you fight something that's rewriting reality itself? Whatever's doing this, it's vast, Michael, incomprehensible. It's editing the world like someone editing a document, removing the bad parts, replacing them with better ones, and we're just words on a page. So what? We just give up. I'm not sure we have a choice. He stood up, stretched. My memories are going. I can feel them slipping away like water. Soon, I won't remember that things were ever different. I'll be happy here. We all will be. What if I don't want to be happy, I said. What if I want things to be real? Then you're going to lose that fight. He walked away, and I didn't try to stop him. The next morning, I went to work, and Nora didn't recognize me. "Can I help you?" she asked, looking up from her computer with polite confusion. "Nora, it's me, Michael." "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" "I work here, with you. We've worked together for 3 years." She frowned and checked something on her screen. "I don't have any employee named Michael. Are you looking for someone specific? I can check the directory." I looked around the library. Nothing was familiar anymore. The shelves were in different places. The carpet was a different color. A man I'd never seen was working the circulation desk, chatting easily with patrons like he'd been there for years. I checked my wallet with shaking hands. My driver's license had a different address. My library ID card was gone. In its place was a membership card for a gym I'd never been to. I ran. Outside, Franklin looked wrong. The streets were cleaner. The buildings were nicer. Everyone I passed looked happy, genuinely happy, in a way that felt almost artificial, like someone had reached into their lives and smoothed out all the rough edges. I found Leonard sitting on the same bench. He looked up when I approached, and I could see it in his eyes, the blankness, the acceptance. "Leonard," I said, "you remember me, right?" "Michael." "Of course," he said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. "We've met before. At the library, I think. We talked about the changes, about your wife, about everything that's been happening." He thought about it for a long moment. "I remember something, but it's hard to focus on. My wife is fine, you know. We're having dinner tonight. She's making pot roast. She died 5 years ago." "No," he said gently. "I think you're confused. She's alive. She's always been alive." I sat down next to him, my legs suddenly too weak to hold me up. This isn't right. None of this is right. Everything seems fine to me. Better than fine, really. Franklin is a wonderful town. I've been very happy here. "For how long?" He paused. "I'm not sure. Does it matter?" I wanted to grab him, shake him, make him remember. But what good would it do? Whatever was rewriting the world had already rewritten him. Soon, it would rewrite me too. I could already feel it happening. When I tried to think about my father's funeral, the worst day of my life, the details were fuzzy. Had it rained? I thought it rained. But maybe it had been sunny. Maybe there had been flowers. Or no flowers. I couldn't quite remember. And my college thesis, the one about Edgar Allan Poe, I could remember working on it, staying up late in the library, arguing with my advisor about symbolism in The Fall of the House of Usher. But when I tried to remember specific passages, specific arguments, there was nothing there. Just a vague sense that it had happened. Had it happened? I went home, except it wasn't my home anymore. The apartment was different, smaller. The furniture was wrong. I had a roommate now, apparently. a guy named Travis who worked at the hardware store. He said hello when I came in, asked if I wanted to order pizza for dinner. I said yes, because I didn't know what else to do. That night, I tried to hold on to my memories. I focused on specific moments. My first day of kindergarten, learning to ride a bike, my father teaching me to drive. I replayed them over and over, trying to keep them solid, trying to keep them mine. But they kept slipping away, like trying to hold on to smoke. By morning, I wasn't sure anymore if my father had taught me to drive or if it had been my uncle. The memory felt different, softer, less sharp around the edges. I met Leonard one last time, 3 days later. He was feeding pigeons in the park, smiling contentedly to himself. "Michael," he said when he saw me, "good to see you. Beautiful day, isn't it?" "Do you remember what we talked about?" I asked. "About the world changing." He looked thoughtful. "I remember thinking things felt strange for a while, but everything's settled down now. I think I was just confused. Getting older, you know. Memory plays tricks." "It's not tricks, Leonard. It's real. Something is rewriting everything." "Why would anything do that?" I didn't have an answer. To make things better, maybe. To fix all the broken parts of the world. To optimize humanity into something perfect and happy and fundamentally wrong. "I should go," Leonard said, standing up. "My wife is expecting me. Take care of yourself, Michael." I watched him walk away. This man who had been my only ally, my only proof that I wasn't going insane. Now he was just another happy citizen of Franklin, content with his rewritten life. I sat on the bench and stared at the sky. It was a perfect blue, not a cloud anywhere. The kind of sky that looked almost painted. I tried to remember what I'd been worried about. Something about changes, I thought. But everything seemed fine now. Franklin was a great town. I had a good job. Where did I work again? The details were hazy. But I was happy there, I thought. Or I would be. Or I had been. The memories kept shifting, rearranging themselves like puzzle pieces that didn't quite fit anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Amber. "Dinner at Mom's Sunday. Luke is bringing his girlfriend. Don't forget." Luke, my brother. I tried to picture his face and found that I could, easily. We'd grown up together, shared a room until high school. He'd taught me to throw a baseball. Or had I taught him? It was hard to remember which of us was older. Both felt true. Neither felt true. I closed my eyes and tried to focus. There was something important I needed to remember. Something about the world being wrong. But when I reached for it, there was nothing there. Just a vague sense of unease that was already fading. When I opened my eyes again, the sun was lower in the sky. Had I been sitting here for hours? It didn't matter. I should get home. Travis was probably wondering where I was. I stood up and stretched. In the distance, I thought I felt something shift. Just the tiniest adjustment. A word being changed here. A sentence being rewritten there. Making everything just a little bit better. A little bit more perfect. I smiled. It was a beautiful day in Franklin. It always had been. I couldn't quite remember why I'd been sitting here, what I'd been thinking about. But whatever it was, it couldn't have been important. Everything was exactly as it should be. Everything was perfect. And somewhere deep down, in a place that was getting smaller and quieter with each passing moment, A part of me screamed, but I didn't hear it. I was already walking home, already forgetting, already becoming someone who had never questioned anything, who had never noticed the changes, who had always lived in this better, brighter, rewritten world. By the time I reached my apartment, even that small screaming part was gone. There was nothing left but contentment, nothing left but the perfect, terrible piece of a world that had erased all its imperfections, including the people who remembered what those imperfections were. I couldn't remember what I'd lost. And that, I suppose, was the point.